Hey everyone, it's Elliott, and welcome back to the channel. So what's one thing that all of our favorite players have in common? If you said something like signature guitar, you're close. It's a signature sound. All of our heroes are original and unique and special to us. They wouldn't be our heroes if, when we heard them, they didn't make us go, wow, that's fantastic. No, I don't actually express myself that way when I'm listening to cool music, but whatever, you get the idea. I do like the idea, however, of me sitting on the train with my headphones in, just saying out loud by myself on the train, that's just fantastic. Most of the time, what makes a player original can be defined by what they do, right? Like Tosin, for instance, Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders. If I bring up thumping, that would be a thing he does, and it would be a part of what makes him unique. So while it might be easier for some to go like, well, I'm going to do this and do that and do this, and hopefully it'll make an original sound, you could also go, well, I actually like a lot of things, and it might be easier for me to find out what I don't want to do and what I can possibly get rid of out of my playing to just basically leave what is necessary. I got curious about this idea because I fall into the latter camp. I just really like things involving guitar. Like, I like all the techniques. If I could just do them all really well, that'd be great. But I found out over the years, I was like, I kind of favor some over others. I happen to love a lot of genres. But am I gonna like move to Spain and play flamenco guitar for my whole life? Like, no, probably not. So again, for this video, I'm gonna talk about originality coming from what you don't do. First off, you'd have to identify your influences, right? Everything that you love, everything that you're influenced by, go full on into it. For me, that started out in high school, getting obsessed with Steve Vai, Satriani, Buckethead, Dream Theater, the whole, the usual suspects. I know I mentioned just a lot of one genre there, but also like Glenn Gould playing the piano, also Django Reinhardt, also Segovia, also a lot of other people, which meant there was a lot of techniques that I was immediately like, I gotta start working on these. And so that was the next, I don't know, half a decade of my life, basically, just trying to get good at guitar. And, good at any kind of guitar that was put in front of me. I would just hear someone who was good and be like, I want to do that too. I want to do that too. I want to do that too. Now, was I good at like almost any of that for like years? No, not at all. It takes a long time. Like new genres are basically like new skills. I know to like people who don't play music, it's like, you play an instrument, well, just you play all the styles and you play whatever I feel like, as if like you are Spotify or something. And as people who play music, we know that's not the case. Like, if you are 20 years deep into being a jazz guitarist or a country guitarist or a blues, whatever, like there are a lot of things that come with each genre specifically, which is why it's pretty apparent when you can hear someone who's like really great in one genre trying to play another, and it's like, genres take a while to absorb, to get good at, and to be able to reproduce naturally. I mean, it is all the language of music, so it is all the same language, but it's certainly different dialects. So I wasn't very good at it for a while, and if you want to go down this road, just know that as you're absorbing this new genre, you're gonna suck at it for like a minute. And by a minute, I mean years. And not like be terrible, unlistenable for years. I don't mean that. You might be unlistenable for like a week, at best. Like, you can make things happen, but to have it be like very genuine and very authentic and very great, it's going to take a while. One thing that's really cool about that process is that after a couple years, or even after, 6 months, a year, you can kind of see if it's coming naturally. Some genres will come more naturally to you than others. It comes down to the time feel, it comes down to the kind of tone you want to hear out of your amp or speakers or whatever, to the kind of phrasing that you want to use. Like when I would initially start to get into jazz, I listened more to like Stevie Ray Vaughan's version of jazz or Jeff Beck's version of jazz or something like that. And I liked that as much as the like jazz. So every now and again I would do some Jeff Beckery with the whammy bar and whatnot on my Strat over a jazz tune, and that would turn heads in the wrong kind of way. Now, there's another debate as to like, should you bow down to the jazz police and whatever, but that's like a whole nother thing. That's not important right now. It was just like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where do I really fit in? Where do I have to try to fit in? What comes the most naturally to me? Over time, thanks to just being able to listen to recordings of myself, I could kind of just see what my tendencies were. where my subconscious or conscious ones, sometimes I would go in with like a specific goal of how to play and then come out like listening going, that's not what I meant to do at all. But there were like these certain ingrained habits or certain ingrained like, you love this. You're trying to do this, but you love this. And that's coming across in the recording. So one of the first things to go for me was sweep picking, which was actually a surprise to me because I grew up liking Steve Vai and Petrucci and Yngwie and all these people who were sweep pickers. But when listening back to recordings of myself, it never sounded right in the solo. And also, even while taking the solo, I'd be like, sweep picking would be cool here. And I'd like insert it into the solo, but I never really like, it never came naturally. I never was like, oh yeah, I just can't wait to hear the sweep picking. It was more like, sweep picking would be a thing to do, I guess. And that always came across when I was listening back. I'd be like, well, that's someone playing guitar, but it's not Elliott. Can I still literally sweep pick? Yeah, sure. Could I relearn how to sweep pick well? Yeah, sure. But it's a choice to kind of just let it fall by the wayside and let a sound be defined by what I don't do, what I'm choosing not to do. To be fair, as a caveat, you might need this process less if you just play one genre. Because there's, you just have to fit in one place. And hopefully you fit in that one genre, and then you don't have to think about it too much. But if you're like me and you happen to like a lot of different ones and you want to play them well, you don't want to like have the rock part of the set list like really hit and then have the like jazz, cocktail hour just be like, you really want to do well and you want to do something artful and genuine and really good, this method might be more up your alley. I don't honestly know where I even got the idea that I would be able to do that, but I think you hear the word chameleon a lot, and now, later on in my life, I'm like, a lot of those people are not chameleons. But, it's what I heard at a young age, so it's like imprinted in my brain of like, no, you can like genuinely and artfully and whatever masterfully express yourself in genres. I've let go of that for the most part, but for a long time that was like, that's the goal. And so if you're trying to do that instead of just playing in one genre, this process of just like originality defined by what you don't do might be more up your alley. Another very key thing in this whole process is to write. Writing your own music gives you that freedom of like, you're making the game now. You're making the rules now. You're making what is acceptable, like stylistically, tone-wise, approach-wise. You're setting the ground rules. It makes sense because you have to basically conceive of a sound before you do anything, before you write. You could just write a random blues album or whatever, and that would be fine, I guess. But if you were like, all right, what encapsulates me as a player, and then you try to write from there, you're going to end up with something that might sound bluesy, but it will sound like your idea of what blues is. Basically, as someone who listens to a lot of blues, I'll hear a new sort of blues. And then if you're not hired to like be blues, in which case you might as well just show up with a Strat, go to the neck pickup, get a really nice sound, and you're, job done. If you want to do something with a different sound and it's over your song, then I'm like, okay, like, good. I'm here to listen to that. Like, you have the room to do so, and who am I to tell you how to write? So I'm just going to listen and absorb whatever your idea is. That can be where people like a Jeff Beck, for instance, got a chance to really grow. Like, if Jeff Beck was just hired to be in some like random blues rock band, it probably would have been great, honestly. But because he had an option to like do a lot of different projects and follow his muse in a lot of scenarios, we got a lot of who Jeff Beck is. But there's a lot of things that he just never did. He never put out like a bebop album to my knowledge. There's a lot of things he didn't do that made him who he was. I know it's kind of semantics at this point, but you get the idea. There are things he did, and you could say, well, he did this, and that made him Jeff Beck. Sure. But he also played a lot of different kinds of guitar, and like literally different guitars. Like, he played a big jazz box, a Les Paul, a Tele, a Strat, whatever. Kind of different sounds, but you could always hear it was Jeff. He never did a really long sweep picking pattern. He never did a bebop album. He never did, while still doing a lot of things, there was a lot he said no to. And it's just another way to look at it, really. If you happen to have a lot of influences and you want to do a lot, there is a way to basically make the pile a little cleaner of all your influences and take away anything that's not quite authentically you. All this to say, it's something to think about if you're trying to develop an original sound of your own. Thanks very much for watching, and thanks for dropping by the channel. We're excited about guitar.